think it was a lousy call either, but I don't like a guy pulling a flag out and deciding who gets a championship.
That's what we see. This is what we say.
I disagree.
This is what we say right here.
I
That's
disagree
us.
with
It's right here.
I
That's where
disagree
we
with
are.
both of you.
The
You have to call that.
The officials in the NBA and the NFL made more news this weekend than they should have.
Right. Well,
That's
when
a
I
different argument.
when I reach
But that's
back,
what we're saying.
I realize I am sending this team to the Super Bowl when I throw this. If I don't, we're going overtime.
That's right.
So no harm, no foul. I hate that the flag came out.
That was a penalty, though.
Yeah.
It is a
And it was an obvious one.
15 yards.
And on one leg, Mahomes, he's getting the call. Let's be honest.
Doug, let me ask you this. When we talk 7 Super Bowl rings, and you mention a guy like Mahomes, 7's pretty much unattainable. All right, I'm gonna go out on.
It's going to be hard because you realize he won a couple of them that easily could have lost too.
Yeah, how close?
Seattle.
How close, Doug, do you think someone
Atlanta.
can get to 7?
I think it's asking a lot. I don't think the Chiefs are going to win this one. I think Mahomes win a couple more. I think the combination of him and Belichick, the fact they could dominate the AFC East, have all those home games, they seem to have Manning's number.
Right.
I think all of that played into it. I don't know if Mahomes, and I think you play more playoff games now than you did then because you got the extra team. There's only one home field advantage for the one team. There used to be 2 byes, now there's 1. I think everything is a little trickier, so I don't think anybody. I think Mahomes will get to 3 or 4.
I think
don't
the
think anybody's getting to
barrier
7.
historically is 4. I think 4 has shown up as the barrier. Brady broke the barrier. I don't think anybody else gets close.
I agree, particularly with the parity that exists in today's NFL and how violent the sport is, how concerned they are, especially, we got to take this into consideration as well. You got to remember, back in the day, you played under conditions they won't allow you to play under now. In terms of you can get concussed, you know, you go back out on the field. They don't allow that anymore. And so because of that, there's so many barriers that get in the way that are prohibitive
Absolutely.
for you going over that
And it's
I
a
think
war
4
of
is the right
attrition.
number.
You have to be healthy. You have to get lucky and stay healthy.
Right.
Look what happened to San Francisco, losing 2 quarterbacks. I mean, they were a good team this year.
Right.
I don't think they would have
down to a
beaten
fourth
the
stringer.
Eagles, but the bottom line is they would have played them well. That defense was really good. That
Right.
team was really good.
Well,
you can't play without a quarterback.
Let me say this to the both of you. I will say this, and I agree with you about the 4 being the barrier, number 4. When I watch Mahomes this year,
because I
think
much.
Well, I hadn't heard about that 4 barrier either, so he's right on that.
No, but I looked at Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is sensational.
So do I.
And for him to be gone from Kansas City, and Kansas City to be number 1 in points, number 1 in yards, number 1 passing attack in the NFL, I'm looking at Mahomes and I'm saying, yeah, I got him getting 4. I don't have him getting more than that. But in the same breath, if anybody could pull it off, it's him.
Andy Reid's getting old, though. You know that? And Andy Reid's a big part of that, why that offense works.
Yes.
A big part.
I think we saw, too, in this postseason, Mahomes. Forget Josh Allen, and I love Burrow, forget him, too. Mahomes is by far maybe a little strong. He's solidly the best quarterback in football.
He's real good.
We thought the 3 of them were a little closer. I think we saw in these postseasons that might not be the case.
I think Burrow, surprisingly, didn't have a lot of protection in that game. He still throws a great ball.
He does.
And he doesn't have protection. He didn't have protection last year.
He is deadly accurate.
He didn't have protection
really is.
last year.
Gentlemen, can I get back to coaching because you mentioned Andy Reid? And Mike, I want to get your thoughts on that Brady-Belichick debate and where you are. How much of it are you crediting to Belichick and his coaching or Tom and his talent?
It's still a game you play with players. The player comes first. Belichick needed Brady more than Brady needed Belichick. That's just the way it works because Belichick doesn't play. So it still comes down to the player. More than, not that the coach doesn't make, and in football, the coach is a bigger factor than in any other sport. And Belichick is a brilliant coach, a brilliant tactician, and changed the way football is run because he completely changed the way teams prepare for games. But Brady is the bigger factor.
I'll tell you where I jump in on that. When I think about Belichick, obviously I think he's phenomenal, great coach, no question about it. But I also think about you lucked up against Seattle because there was nowhere on earth that Pete Carroll and Bevel should have threw that pass. Had Russell
Could have cost Carroll a Hall of Fame. Could have cost Carroll.
And by the way,
And if we lock the Atlanta coaches, if we locked them in the locker room at halftime,
That's
they
right.
win the game by
run
2
the ball.
touchdowns.
Exactly. Run the ball.
Please.
Run the ball, chew up the clock. You got a 25-point lead. Those are 2 Super Bowls that Belichick shouldn't have won, as far as I'm
Which
concerned.
is my point why it's Montana, not Brady, as the best Super Bowl quarterback.
But you need the coach-quarterback combination.
I agree.
Brown and Otto Graham.
Yes.
Walsh and Montana.
Right.
Starr and Lombardi.
Nolan Bradshaw.
Bad Dog. This is
But
the
Nolan
greatest.
Bradshaw.
This is the greatest coach-player combo, though, right?
I'd have to call it that. Belichick,
Oh,
Brady.
I think the only one that could come close would be
Walsh and Montana.
Would be well, even Young did a lot, but I would think, unless you're going to go back to, they don't like to go back to Otto or anything.
Well, you could go Paul Brown, Otto Graham.
We can go back.
That's
Yeah,
really
we can go back.
that's important.
For a little
that
bit.
one,
For a little bit.
and then Walsh and Montana, obviously. But this is it. I mean, they kept getting there, which is the key. They kept getting there,
right.
and that's the thing.
I didn't hear y'all bring up Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman, even though
That's a
Barry
good one.
Switzer was the third.
That's a good one,
All right,
too.
you didn't bring up Noel and
That's a very
Bradshaw.
good
I
one.
brought
Although
up that
Bradshaw
one.
didn't like
I didn't
Noel.
hear you, Mr. Francesa, bring up Coughlin and Eli Manning.
Well, they
I
won
just want to
twice.
throw that out there.
But remember, they stopped Tom Brady twice too.
Yes, they did.
Think about what
that
Tom's
defense.
career looks like if it's not for Eli Manning.
Now, I would also say you meant that they got lucky a couple times. Although they were outplayed, they also got unlucky a couple times. They could have won that first Giant game. Bull hit his helmet.
No question.
They could have won that. So maybe that makes up the
Maybe
Seattle
Kyrie,
game.
yeah.
And Chuck Noll, there's certain guys for whatever reason get lost in history. Noll has gotten lost.
Oh, he does.
Absolutely.
He is an incredible
Absolutely.
coach.
Without
Incredible.
question.
Steelers won 2 with defense and
right.
2
And
with
2 with
offense.
offense.
That's right.
That's how they won.
That's right.
See, now you know we're him and I.
Swan,
Now you know.
Swan,
Let me ask you
Stalwart,
this.
Rocky Blyer, Franco Harris, with Bradshaw. Yes, that offense.
When
yes, I
players
remember.
retire, folks are often emotional. We're not going to see these great players anymore. I saw a little emotion on Get Up. Do you feel celebratory right now?
Well, I think the problem that you have with Brady is you probably saw it coming, and he gave you a little of this thing last year. So, all right, he retired last year for 2 months, so he did a little wax poetic about it, your favorite phrase. And then he did it again, and you kind of expect him to. So I am not as wrapped up in it as I would have been, say, if it was 4 years ago and he only had done it one time.
Hey, this wheel just keeps on turning. You know what? They replaced Cronkite. They replaced Johnny Carson. They replaced Michael Jordan. They replace everybody. You know that? The world just keeps going
You
on.
really think they replace Michael Jordan
They replace everybody.
and Tom Brady?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
LeBron-
The ratings will be great next year in the NFL. They'll be great. That'll be great. The ratings
Won't
will be great
budge.
in the Super Bowl
Won't
this
budge.
year.
I know, those two feel like a league of their own, though.
That's it. But, hey, they're great players, but you move on. Everybody's going to have a shelf life. Tom's has been.
Drew Bledsoe, who was the #1 overall pick once upon a time and had led that team to a Super Bowl once before, got knocked out with an injury in a game against the Jets early in the year, and Tom Brady ran out onto the field, and I think the conventional wisdom was, well, the Patriots are certainly done here. And, of course, he went all the way to winning a championship that year. Can you pinpoint one moment, D. Wood, in that season where it occurred to you, wait a minute, this guy's that good? Like, not only are we not done, we got a shot to do something special because this guy is actually really, really good. Do you remember the moment you first thought that?
I don't know if there was really one moment per se. There were so many moments, during the season. And listen, at that time, we weren't led by our offense. We were led by, our defense, Teddy, Willie McGinnis, all those guys. Those guys were the leaders on that team, and we were kind of, a team that played complementary football. And so Tom grew into his legend. He grew into the player that he was. But I always go back to my thing. When I knew Tom was the one, was, to me, Super Bowl 36, that last drive. If anyone remembers, I remember John watching the game afterwards, John Mann was like, no, the Patriots shouldn't, they basically just played to overtime. We made the decision that we're going to go for it right here, right now with the game tied. And Tom just methodically just bam, 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 drove us all the way down the field. Okay, and Adam Vinatieri ultimately kicked the game-winning field goal. And when that confetti was coming down, I looked at Tom like, yeah, he's the guy. He's the one. Like, he's the new anointed one that we're going to have in our league.
I like the smile on Teddy's face as you're hearing that story, Teddy. What are you thinking?
Man, all Brady did on that drive was hit J.R. Redmond on a couple check downs, Jermaine Wiggins on the short little pass, and then Troy Brown. What Woody's telling is right. It's exactly right what he's saying and how he developed into it. I think he was in the Carolina Super Bowl for me when we were playing Jake Delhomme in the Carolina Panthers, and it was defensive-led, and there were a lot of special teams that made a lot of plays, too, leading up through those first early championships, but we couldn't stop them. Defensively, we just ended up to a place where you just can't stop them anymore, and it's like, oh, well, what are you going to do now? And then Brady over and over again, making throws in that Super Bowl against the Carolina Panthers, where that's the moment where I said, whoa. We are onto something here, and this guy can be great. So it was the second Super Bowl for me that really, the first one was, that was almost like that was destiny winning that one in 2001. But then Brady started to turn into Brady, Carolina, Philadelphia, and then I think, boom, it was sort of solidified the 07 season when he threw 50 touchdown passes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those teams transitioned from being defense-led teams to being the high-scoring offense and everything else. But people forget those 3 Super Bowls. They were all incredibly close games. Vinatieri making game-winning field goals. It's one play here or there, and Brady found a way to win them all. D. Wood, thank you. The Patriots actually have responded today. I'm told that